Hey, What's Your Self-Talk? Jabari is here from What's Your Self-Talk podcast. And listen, I want you to download Anchor right now. Because chances are you're listening to this and you're saying, I got some things I want to share. I have some things that I've wanted to put in a podcast form. Here's the opportunity. Anchor is free. You can do it from your phone and you can be on all the different podcast stations all in one app. Okay. So what I need you to do is stop waiting for the perfect time, analysis paralysis. Do it now. You'll thank me later. What's your self-talk? Hey, what's your self-talk? This is Jabari here again with another special podcast. It's special to me because I am going to choose to talk to you about the purpose of pain and how we need to learn to grow from it. So if you're new to the podcast, my name is Jabari, and the purpose of this podcast is to always ask you the question, what's your self-talk? And our job is to be able to challenge you by giving you the information that's going to allow you to reach your full potential. And so one of the reasons, if you're now just tuning into my podcast for the first time, is why I chose this topic is I've looked at Enneagram over the last couple of weeks, and it just reveals a lot about self-awareness and how everybody deal with certain situations in life. So Enneagram have where when you are healthy and when you are in stress, and so what you go to, why you do those things. So I just encourage you to go back and listen to the podcast I did have with Kendra Green, and also be able to listen to what I had with Darius Dunaway. We talked about this a little bit more in detail, but it really allowed me to start doing some deep work, and it got me to understanding the purpose of pain. Now, for the setup of this podcast, I want to help you understand what the purpose of pain means and why I want to kind of define it. So when I am saying the purpose of pain, I'm talking about pain that we go through in life that is necessary. So, it's a difference. You go through certain physical pains. Some you can't control, whether you have a physical condition, or you go through just emotional pain or physical pain. For me, I'm referring to more of that emotional pain that we all go through when it comes to life and circumstances. And it's challenging. And the reason why it's so challenging is because you are having to confront some realities about yourself. And so one of the things I learned from the Enneagram is, as a 7, I am someone who loves to be an encourager. I'm someone who always look at the optimistic side of life. I'm someone who always want to press forward and do better, which is great. A lot of people love talking to me. Some people love being around me because they understand, hey, Jabari's going to cheer me up. And I actually enjoy doing that. That's why the name of this podcast is What's Your Self-Talk? Because we need to be aware of what are the things we tell ourselves. Now, what happens is, on the flip side of that, I can sometimes be naive to actually understand, hey, maybe your self-talk needs to actually understand pain in the sense that you may need to deal with some past experiences, whether it's upbringings or whether it's current experiences. And one of the things I've learned as I am becoming not only a father to 1, but soon a father to 2, is as you become a parent, you have to be so much more consciously aware of not only, 1, how you are raising your kids, but what are the baggage and the stuff that you have to deal with internally so that you do not consciously put that on your children. So I'll give a little background. So my wife, who is a great woman, who challenged me in so many different ways. And my wife is the very opposite of me. And so she loves having difficult conversations, tough conversations. If anything, she's a great debater, and she stands for what she has to say. And, you don't have to agree with her, but that's fine. But that is so great for me because it gives me a different perspective to start seeing life and understanding the importance of not only just standing for who you are. But we started getting into conversation, and we started talking about, it was, I forget the name of the author, so I'll make sure I have it in the show notes. But it is a doctor who teaches how conscious parenting is important. And so the concept behind conscious parenting is being able to be more consciously aware of how you're raising your children. Because generally what happens, and this did happen to me, when we grow up, our parents maybe build us up or treat us a certain way to kind of live through us. And most of the time, that has really nothing to do with the child, because as a child, you are just following the lead of your parents. And at some point, most kids start to realize, hey, this is not what I want to do, or this is not, who I want to become. And I had this happen to me. My dad was a very, very big sports fan, and really was big on me wanting to play baseball. Well, baseball never worked out, but I still played football. I made it all the way to college. And so my dad had a desire for sports, and I did too. I love sports, but it just never worked out. And, I'm in a business field and I love it. No regrets. But I did get to a point in my life where I realized, hey, I am either living my dream or I'm living out a little bit of someone else's. Now, this took a lot of time and years to be able to really understand what was going on. But I say all that to say is that we as human beings, if we're not aware, when we start bringing little versions of ourselves in the world, we can sometimes create that same thing because we haven't done the deep work of saying, what are some things that I need to deal with so I can make sure, if my kid, they can be whatever they want to be. And that is true. And I am building them up to be who God wants them to be. And when I think about that, and when you have to be consciously aware of that, you have to see, okay, what is my junk and what is my baggage I have to make sure that I'm not, bringing into them. So that's one of the reasons why the purpose of pain, because as I start to dig deep inside of myself, and the thing that I do so good is that when something difficult arises, I can try to just what is called refrain from it. As I was talking about in the last week podcast with Kendra Green, is as a 7, which I will agree completely, because when something is difficult, when it's painful, I try to flip it. I try to say, oh, well, guess what? This is this or this is that. And that's fine. But I had to realize, hey, there is a purpose for this pain. So I want you to understand, what are the things that you're going through in life that you say, there's a purpose that I'm going through this pain, and I need to define that. I need to understand that. And this is only going to come from you being able to self-reflect. And how I choose to do that, I choose to journal. I choose to work out. And when I do these things and I allow myself to just look at it in life, and when I see my goals, I start to see, okay, what are some difficulties that I'm having in certain areas in life? And why am I having those issues? And when I'm able to identify that, then I'm now able to see, okay, this is what I need to do. And so that's why it's important not only understand the purpose of pain, then define your pain. Okay. So defining your pain and saying, okay, I'm going through this for a reason. And I need to dig deep and not try to suppress it off, or I don't need to try to entertain myself so I don't have to deal with those feelings, or that's how I choose to deal with it. But I need to sit back, reflect, and ask myself, hey, Jabbar, why do you do this? Why do you view, maybe when you have a conversation with your son, why would you do this? Why would you have a conversation this way as opposed to that way? And what are the things that you need to work on that you have not worked on? That if you're not aware, you're going to just pass it along to your child. So that's important. You have to be able to define your pains. And sometimes certain people need to go through counseling. Certain people have to have just good friends. I'm just grateful to have a great wife who is just, straightforward, see life for exactly what it is, and just conversations with her just help me understand, okay, oh yeah, that's right, you're right. One thing I like is also people who are very straightforward in life, and they have so much more success. My mentor, Terrence Murphy, he is just this way. He see life as it is, but he's had much success. Other people that I look up to, people like Grant Cardone, who is very successful in business, but he talks about, hey, if you want to be successful in business, you also have to be successful in your marriage, in your spiritual, in all areas of life, because you just don't want to have one area that's great, but then the other ones. And for those who know me from just Zig Ziglar said the exact same thing. And these things are all important to me. So that's why I'm on this path of the journey, because it's like, I don't want to be successful in business, but then I look home and I don't have the relationships that I need to have with my wife. And I don't have the relationship I don't have the right relationship with my kids. And so defining your pain is important, because you got to understand, hey, well, how will this affect me if I don't do this? And so then that leads me to pretty much that last one, is just choosing to grow from that pain. So when I got into the Enneagram work and I started to understand, okay, hey, I reframe. Therefore, when things are difficult, when things are painful, I need to, find a good and just, press and deal with that. And one of the things, like I said, I learned from that is I don't deal with it. And that's not good, like I just talked about. So I had a chance to go in and meet one of the teachers of the Enneagram, Mrs. Suzanne Stable. And she gave me some very interesting advice. She told me, for individuals like myself and me specifically, is that I need to learn to deal with what is called the dark emotions that comes with, just difficult and painful situations. Because by doing this allowed me to put language to what pains I'm going through. Because when you can put language to that pain and you deal with that pain, it starts to give me a better and a different view of life. And it also can change my self-talk. But this way, I'm actually dealing with the pain and not trying to refrain from the pain and not deal with it. And so choosing to grow is now I'm going through that hard work, those difficult emotions, and I'm defining those difficult emotions, but I'm choosing to allow that to make me better. And that is very hard for me, but it's great because I'm able to have people to talk to. I'm willing to invest in other relationships that's going to allow me to, have those conversations and people to hold me accountable. And that's one of the things I'm grateful for my brother Darius, who we talk a lot about this stuff in more details, and we can be able to see these areas of improvement, not that our wives don't point it out to us more often than we probably want to hear it, right? So, and I think that's why it's important to have real, genuine relationships. So, and if you're someone who's, maybe you don't have friends like that, well, hey, that's fine. That's why I think it's important to read and educate yourself. And one, that's why you listen to podcasts, and this one specifically. And so I really just wanted to touch on this topic, is the purpose of pain, because I think during this holiday season, I did a interview. Most people don't like to deal with, the tough stuff that goes on in life. And sometimes this time of the year that is holidays and you're around family, it can be difficult for a lot of people. And the reason it can be difficult because they may not had great, upbringings just in the holiday season. Now, this is not me, but I use this as an example because I hear this often. And this is one area that we need to say, hey, what is the purpose of this pain that I'm still experiencing? Because it gets to the point where you have to say, I want to feel more free. I want to feel more joy when it comes to life. And the way you do that is to go through that difficult, that pain. You find the purpose of the pain, you define the pain, and you choose to grow from that pain. And once again, I am highly recommending, if you have to talk to, a therapist, or, reach out and talk to a friend or a family member, do so. Process these painful, experiences, or even feelings you're having or thoughts you're having, because sometimes it can be so raw that you don't know how to deal with them. And it kind of goes back to one of the things I talked about earlier this year when it came to, all the social injustice. That was a very difficult thing, and still is, but I'm still working through that side to even talk about for me. Because once again, I'm portrayed as the guy that is always happy, that's always excited, but that's just half of me. And me not giving you my full me, then I'm holding back, and I also can't teach my sons, got another son coming, how to deal with that also. So the ability that I help myself and do this well is the ability I can help others, and even specifically, with my son. And so that's why I'm giving you this insight in the purpose of pain in today's podcast, to just start getting your self-talk, to start thinking about, what are the things I need to do? What are the purposes of the pains that maybe I didn't deal with or I'm not dealing with? And how do I need to define them? How do I need to just spend time to reflect? And this is not, quick work for certain people. For you, it may be. For someone else, this may take, months. This may take some years. Whatever that journey is, enter that journey. Go into it understanding it will make you better. And I believe as I continue to do that hard work, I'm going to get better in all areas of life. And that is what I want you to take from today's podcast. The purpose of pain is to define your pain and choose to grow from it. Because if you don't do that, your pain will define you, and your pain will choose to push you away from people. And you don't want that, just like I don't want that. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Obviously, it was probably a little bit different, but it was needed, not only for you, but for me. So I'm grateful for you guys for listening this long. I'm grateful for you guys always downloading my podcast. And we'll see what this journey goes to. And I will definitely keep giving an update on what this looked like down the line. And for you to know, one of the reasons I started this podcast is that my kids are going to listen to this one day. They're going to be, the same age as me. And they are going to want to say, how did my dad deal with this? What did he deal with? How did he deal with it? And so this is like a small way of me saying, hey, let me document my journey and saying, hey, I was young just like you, or I had difficulties just like you did, or just like you're going through. So that's important to me. And hopefully you can find a way to do that. If it's not for kids that you have, but just people that's very important to you in your life. Okay. All right. So thank you for listening. If you can, share this with somebody. If you found this to be helpful, or any of my podcasts to be helpful, share this with someone who just need more, as I think of it, language to kind of process their life. Because certain things that I go through in life, I just need other people to give me some ammo. I need them to say what they're going through or how they interpret life, so I can be like, you know what? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so I had so many of those moments as I listen to other podcasts, or I read books, or I just talk to friends. I'm like, that's it. I never could be able to explain it. So share this with just one person that you think that this may be helpful. And also leave me a review. This is on Apple, and when they get a chance to see, hey, this podcast and it's helpful to you in what way? Well, then more people will download it and it can be able to help more people. And that's my goal. So as you go forward in life, choose to deal with your pain, understand the purpose of your pain, define your pains, and choose to go from your pain. And with that, I want you to move forward, and I want you to ask that question that we always ask on this podcast. What's your self-talk? Thank you for listening.